Welcome to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast, where I interview incredible fathers, gaining wisdom from their stories for you and I to grow in our craft. I'm your guide, Ned Shout, father to 5 kiddos, currently ages 12 to 19, and husband to my rad wife, Sarah, working on our 21st year of marriage. So yes, I'm in the thick of it, and I am working daily to rebel against the low expectations for fathers and create a world where fathers know who they are as they show up for their families. You and I have the greatest opportunity to impact our world through the way we embrace our fatherhood role. This episode is brought to you by the Adventure of Fatherhood, helping men discover their powerful fatherhood role and build their fatherhood skills. The role of the father is to serve, guide, steward, protect, and of course, find joy and have fun in the messiness of it all. Today's guest is my friend Mike McCarthy, incredible human being. He was on episode 102 and 202, so it has been a while since I've had Mike on the show. He is an entrepreneur, a business leader, business owner, a husband, a father, a moment creator, and a man out on a mission to inspire and educate families and how they operate with their values, with clear rhythm in their homes. Enjoy reconnecting with my friend, Mike. Rock and roll, let's go, Mike McCarthy. Super pumped to be pausing in the day and talking family and fatherhood with you. How you doing, my friend?
Doing great. Happy to be here.
Heck yeah, dude. So, normally I'm in like a black t-shirt, but I was, doing my research, scrolling your Instagram, and I just saw you DJing in the forest, and it looked wildly fun. Bubbles in the air, hands up, tons of people. So I was like, I got to put on a party shirt if I'm going to be talking to Mike McCarthy. So talk to me about your world. What was that? What was the DJing like in the forest?
I mean, it was epic, man. It's always better when you share a moment like that with friends and family. So I had my brother-in-law and sister-in-law and my other brother and sister-in-law there, and I had really close friends. Our buddy John Vroman was there, and to get to share that moment with all of them, but also my friend who also DJs played the set after mine. So we got to do at the end of my set, play back to back for a couple of for three or four songs, and we got to share that moment together as homies who'd dreamt a year ago of maybe doing something like that, and we slowly worked our way as a team towards that with a small group of DJs that we play with here in Austin. So we did it just for fun. We're all entrepreneurs. My buddy who was on stage with me and played after me, he goes by a mentee, but he's, co-founder of Organifi, and now he's all in on making music. For me, it's more of a hobby still. I just like to keep it as a passion and something that I do at a high level, but I really love without making it into sort of a 40-hour-a-week obsession. So I'm keeping it fun, but it definitely was a magical moment. It's something that I added to my bucket list later and then crossed off. I hadn't even imagined I'd DJ at that level, but I have been DJing for 25 years before it was cool, when it was on vinyl and no one cared. So it's kind of cool to see an industry come full circle as well, where now people love electronic music. And when I started, it was a very, very genre of a subgenre and not many fans, and it's a small industry.
Well, before I set some context for our time together, you said a word several times, and I want to just bring this to light right out at the gate, because I think that you really are hyper aware of this and create a lot of space for it. So you said share a moment, and you said magical moment several times. So talk to me about a moment, because like right now, you and I are having a moment, and I feel like so much of us live in the past, we live in the future, but what do moments mean to you? And give me some examples of like what you're doing to like actually live that out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, moments to me are something you have to show up present for. So to me, there's a part of it where, it's easy to be present when you're in a magical moment or a moment where you're really curating the experience. So, for somebody who has a little bit of ADHD and has some challenges as a visionary, staying in the present moment, like finding the magic inside of this moment right now is really the trick to life. Because if I can live in this moment and and not have to think about what's next or be trying to control what's next. And it opens up a space to be creative and see what shows up. And I think as entrepreneurs, at least me, I've always been like a doer, and I would do a million things and throw the spaghetti against the wall, and some stuff would stick. And in the end, I look back and I'm like, all the things that really made me successful were none of the things that I thought actually were going to make me successful. So it's a bit of a trick of what to focus on to be productive. And I think it's all about the stage of life that you're in. And for me, I'm in a stage where I've lost my father, my uncle, his brother also passed away a couple years later. You start to see that, hey, life isn't, nobody's gonna, nobody's gonna live my life for me, and I'm creating my own story. And I only have so much time to do that. And so what am I going to do with that time? And what I'm going to do with it is uh, I'm going to make moments for the people I love. Like, I'm going to savor those moments and enjoy them. And those are the memories, and that's the wealth that you can mine from this earth and take with you, I guess, is the spirit of those memories and being present and showing up fully.
I love it. I hear my dad say, trying to be happy is like trying to be surprised. It's like you have to, there's a recipe behind it. But if you just go through your day all the time, just like, I gotta be happy, gotta be happy. It's like wanting to be surprised all the time. And you can't fabricate that. But there's a recipe for creating these moments. And what I love that I'm hearing is, you want to create moments, not just for yourself to have this, bucket list of like, look at what I did, but it's almost like, look at what I created and did with other people and created, because, and you said it, memories, right? Like, what you're going to leave here is memories. And so what is it like being with Mike? And your kids are going to feel a certain way, your family, and then those you've spent time with. So let's just kind of create a little framework here. Mike, incredible human being, has been on the podcast twice before. So if you like our conversation, definitely go back and listen to episode 102, where we talked about the family meeting, and episode 202, where we talked about a framework for peace. And on that one, we really dug into the Miracle Morning playbook for parents and families, which is, I mean, if you're a parent and you want to have a family that is like cohesive and connected, get that book. It is amazing. Mike, in a couple of minutes or less, what is it that you do for a living to provide for the family, just to give people some context?
Yeah. So, I mean, I have multiple businesses. I still own and operate the second largest Keller Williams region, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware. And we do quite a bit of real estate business there. I have a really solid team that leads that. But I am the owner and the operating partner for that business. And I'm the co-founder of GoBundance. We've got over 900 high net worth members as part of our group, and a couple hundred in some of our spin-off divisions, high powered women. So there's GoBundance for women, and then also Emerge, which is our group that's aspiring to be high net worth, and they're working towards it. So we've built that out of a passion, a love. It wasn't something we meant to do, but it's been, incredible to watch. And it really, over COVID and in the last 4 or 5 years, it's really exploded into something that's much bigger than any of us thought it could be. And it's opened up a pathway for me. I mean, I have great teams around me, and I have some great businesses, but I'm not necessarily in the day-to-day of those businesses. And so I focus most of my, energy that would be business or career or professional energy. I focus that on the investments that I'm making, on my estate planning that I'm wrapping up for this year. And then I focus on building the Fambundance organization, which is our family programs within GoBundance. So we do a lot of stuff for our families. And that's really like the main thing that I'm building that's, in the world and not just for my family.
So give us like Fambundance, you kind of stepped back into that in the last 18 months or so and have been developing it more, leaning into that more. What does that look like? And with that, like, where would somebody learn more about that? Who's it for?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's just for our members. So, in GoBundance in general is just a great community of men who have come together. Most of them are the leaders in their field. So they're business owners. We've got some top athletes, top lawyers, doctors, some, really just incredible serial entrepreneurs, people that have started family businesses. But everyone in there, it has some level of already checked the box of sort of business and financial success. And now they're wanting more out of life. They're wanting better health, better relationships, to give back to their community more, and to actually go have fun and be, on bucket list adventures and to do things. And then also they actually want accountability from people, because when you're the dominant, sort of leader in any industry or any field, or you're the leader of a company, you're sort of a lone wolf, and you don't have the accountability that you need, because you need people that will call you on your bullshit, hold you accountable, like take a stand for you when the shit hits the fan and inevitable, life things happen that are challenging. You need that crew around you. And so we create that through GoBundance. Like, it's like having, a bunch of incredible best friends all around the country. And I think the family division is for those who want to not only be a part of the GoBundance community, but then want to bring their family along for the journey. And we do a couple of events a year where we walk families through our frameworks. And that involves like the identity and values of the family is kind of step one. Step two is the vision and goals of the family. And then step three is what are our rhythms, our traditions, and our rituals that create a thriving family culture. But we walk families through that over a 2 to 3 day workshop, and they spend half their time playing and doing games and activities. And then they spend the other half like learning together as a family. And then they break out occasionally and learn with teens and other kids, like about financial literacy, leadership, self-mastery, money, stuff like that. But it's all built for our GoBundance members. So it's right now just an added benefit to GoBundance membership. And both the GoBundance women's division and GoBundance men's elite division both get access to our Fambundance events as part of their membership.
That's incredible. That's incredible. I love it. Yeah, I mean, if you go on the Instagram and check it out, it just looks like so much fun with people who are really just showing up to enjoy life and learn together. I want to ask you about family, right? So what does family look like 100, 500, 1,000 years from now? I think we focus heavily on our businesses. We focus heavily on ourselves. We focus heavily on like what is happening in the next year. You are at a position where you're leaning into building families. You just talked about your estate planning. And I know with that, we're not just talking financially, we're talking core values, vision, rhythm, passing that. So 2 parts to this question. What does it look like to pass that from one generation to the next? And then what do you foresee once you're gone, right? You're creating this thing with just Fambundance as an example of if somebody came back in 500 years, what would you hope Fambundance has done? So there's like 5 questions in there, but riff on that with me.
Yeah, I mean to just level set the dialogue. The first thing is if your legacy, your written values, your family constitution, your wealth, if it makes it past the third generation, then you've bucked the trend massively. And that would be, focused on, 40 to 60 years from now, you would know the end result. I'll know it a little sooner because I'm a second generation entrepreneur. So they say, shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves. And in 3 generations. And it's proven that literally like 90% of wealth doesn't make it to the past the third generation. Most statistics will show you that. And most businesses, there's some books that are out there. I'd have to look Andy to read off. One of them's called, I think it's borrowed from our grandchildren. And it's this, and that's a significant story on just the way that you transfer wealth from one generation to another. And the point is that it's very hard to do. And if you don't actually make the priority passing the values and the vision and statements and the mission statements of the family, the identity of the family, then the chances of the wealth making it go way, way, way down. So when they look at failed families, family enterprises or family wealth planning, it's oftentimes due to a lack of regular family meetings, a lack of understanding of what the trust and its purposes are, and then it's a lack of preparation of the next generation in order to be ready to handle that wealth. Because if they haven't earned it, they don't know what it takes to wield that power. And so it becomes really challenging. But I think the solution is to give kids the flint and kindling and not the fire, so that they can go out and they can learn and to respect the power of money by learning to earn it themselves. And so the flint and kindling would be like education and opportunities to just start little small businesses here or there, or to do an investment here and start a stock account. But we have to give them those opportunities to sort of learn the value of money, but also we have to do that in other areas like leadership, conflict resolution, ownership and accountability, self leadership. Like there's all these things that I'm mentioning, by the way, that are not taught in our school systems. And goal setting, miracle morning, all of these things are beneficial. Personal development, none of it's really talked about in the ways we would want in our school systems. And so and maybe it shouldn't be, honestly. I don't know if I want the school system teaching them that anyways. So I'm happy to do it within Fambundance and for my own family. But what's left over for my kids, to answer the final part of your question, is what's going to be there for my kids is the opportunity to earn the right to show that they can wield and handle the power of whatever financial resources might be there. And that will come through them earning the right and me voting them in as a board of directors or a board onto the board of trustees for their own trust. And so they have a pathway to take control of it, but the documents are written such that they never get to just take a bunch of money out and go spend it. They don't get to go buy a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or go spend the money. They would have to get everything approved just like it was a bank. And I have a group of trustees, 3 of them, and successive trustees who will make those decisions. But I'm offering that opportunity to help set them up and give them the flint and kindling that they need. But as Warren Buffett had famously said, in estate planning, when it comes to his children, he said, I've chose to give them enough to do anything, but not enough to do nothing. And so we want to give them a little bit of juice, a little bit of fuel, a little bit of, assistance in launching, but then, it's upon them to sort of fly out of the nest or not. And I think that's the real question is, can you raise capable young adults with good character and strong moral values? Because if so, then you can teach them everything else. But if they don't have good character and good, morals and a good, understanding of what the family's all about, it becomes hard to sort of integrate that legacy. And that's both the financial and the family culture and all forms of capital, intellectual, relational.
Mhm.
There's so many forms of capital that get passed from generation to generation. A lot of times we get stuck on the financial side, but there's so much more to it.
Yeah. So okay. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and then guide you to what my next question is, because you kind of ended well with that, in the sense of there's more than just wealth capital. How many years have you been married?
19 in September. I'm pretty sure we'll make it.
19 years. And then how old are your kids right now?
16 and 12.
16 and 12. Beautiful. Okay. And then when your dad passed away, is your mom still around?
Yeah. They were divorced.
They were divorced. Okay. And then had he been remarried, or?
He had yes. He had a significant other.
Okay. So question to you at this stage, right? Because your dad passed with you because you guys started a business together. So I mean, I wouldn't even say, I mean, you said it, you're a second generation entrepreneur, but I don't know that you were necessarily set up because of his work. It was like a lot of work that you had done together. Is that kind of accurate?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he carved a pathway to get an opportunity to build something, and then we built it together for a little while, and then I built the rest of it, and he retired.
So here's my question. We talk about capital, and I think that's really important. But you pick one of these two, or both if you want. But how will you pass this idea of marriage as a piece of family? Like, how will you pass this idea of marriage? Because, like, in some sense, I do hope that I'm able to build an incredible company and wealth that can pass from generation to generation. Like, that would be awesome. But I think if I had to choose, which I don't know, this is tough. I'm saying this for the first time out loud. Let me back up. Somebody asked me recently, I was making a big decision, and they asked me, Ned, what do you ultimately want? Like, what's the one thing you want? And I was like, you know what? If at the end of my life, I'm 90 years old, 100 years old, I would really love to still be married to Sarah. Like that to me, if I built a $100 million company or I was still married to Sarah, I feel like the married to Sarah would be like, just because this shit is so hard. Marriage is so hard, right? So it's interesting because it's like, okay, well, I want to pass that to my kids, but we don't live in a society where we arrange marriages, or I can confirm like my kid's going to marry Mike McCarthy's kid, and we have similar values and stuff. Now we're talking about that a lot in the home right now because I got 4 daughters who are all teenagers. So I'm like, oh God, like I can see the writing on the wall, like they're good, and I see some of these jokers sometimes that they like, whatever. Anyways, how do you pass this idea of marriage down? Because like if we came back in 500 years, if our families have this belief around marriage, I wonder the value of that over the finance and or okay, so you can hit me with what your thoughts are on that, and or how do we pass our faith, like whatever it is that you believe in, to from one generation to another. So do either of those resonate with you as part of this thought that you've been going through of like estate planning and fambundance and generational thinking and character, etc.? What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the answer is the same for both of those. Like, I think if you try to push marriage onto them and the value of it, or you push your faith or your beliefs on them too much, I think that it can backfire. So I think it's a sensitive thing where it's more about just living the example of it, so that they can see what a beautiful marriage looks like, and they can see the benefit of what faith does to pull you through a challenging moment, or to give you peace or comfort when it's needed. And to, they have to sort of go on that journey themselves. Unfortunately, they're going to have to go out into the world. But hence your point of like, how do you prepare them for that? I think, to me, it's how well can I start to demonstrate how a husband should treat a wife, so that my daughter and your daughters can see the example of what that looks like. And so you have to just be aware, like they're always watching, they're learning from what we do and not what we say. And so, that's how I would approach it. My son's journey with, faith is he's skeptical about God. And my daughter instantly was just like, "Oh yeah, I believe in all this. This sounds true." And I'm not going to fight my son's reality, because whenever I do that, and we've had this, I'm navigating having a 16-year-old, but if I try to fight his reality, I'm going to lose 100% of the time. And he lives in a place that's, as a teenager, it's very real. Everything matters. And it's a tough gig being a teenager. So I try to be like super open, and I'm not a pushover, and I've had my years where I was strict and more of a hard ass. So as I've gotten older and matured more as a parent, I've gotten a lot more like trusting, but verify. And really, like, unless it's something that's life threatening, it's almost doesn't bother me. I'm almost unfazed at this point.
I mean, I like that, right? You're more open to it, unfazed. You live the example and you walk with them. I do think it is a fine line of like putting the guardrails in on too many things that these kids are just going to jump over the damn guardrail if I just try to force this path. So it is interesting to let them wrestle, right? Because it's like, if you decide, it means so much more if you decide. But then there's the interesting thing of like, freaking 2-year-old doesn't know he needs to brush his teeth, right? So I got to make his ass brush his teeth. So as a parent, it's interesting to navigate that, because it seems as though once you get one age season of life kind of down, you're like, okay, cool, I've got this 10-year-old figured out. Then your daughter turns 13 and you're like, holy smokes, it's not the same. It changes. So I mean, to me, that's the beauty. And I've heard you talk about this before. I sometimes think our kids are actually here more to teach us than we are to teach them, because the reality is people figure it out for the most part. And so it's like, I think my kids are there to like help me understand God, help me understand myself. And I just went on a 3 or 4 day trip with my daughter Violet. So yesterday was her first day of senior year high school. So about 10 days ago, her and I went to Olympic National Forest just to be like, just us, 4 days, dad and daughter. And I was telling her, I'm like, yo, I'm really not that far ahead of you. Like, I had you at 25. I had you at 25. So like, sure, 25 years is something, but it's not 1,000 years. It's not that much ahead. So it's just fun talking about what we can learn from each other and our life experience.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that you're taking the time to spend with her. And, that I just went on a 3-day trip with my son, backpacking with some other GoBundance dads. And, we summited a mountain together in Colorado, Mount Antero, the 11th highest peak there. And we got 15 kids, 8 to 12, and 10 adults, all to the top of the mountain and back down safely. But it was that time together is so precious. And now one thing I'd love to share that I've been learning about that precious time that we have with them is that, my son and he's at an age where he needs a little bit of direction and a little bit of correction and some guidance from me. But my opportunities to deliver that information or that guidance is very small. It's a very small window of opportunity because he's made up his mind on a lot of things. He's very smart. He gets influenced by lots of different things. So to be one of those things that influences him, you have to break through the noise. And I think the only way to do that is to be very connected to them. And so I've been thinking about how much time do I spend trying to correct his behavior, and how much time do I spend just connecting with them. And when I say connect with them, I mean like really meeting them where they are, like playing video games, asking them about their friends at school and about what interests them and their hobbies, and really just sticking with it, getting like, freakishly curious about whatever it is that they love and following that string. And then, when I do that, I notice that, our relationship deepens. And so I think for a long time, I was sort of like, trying to find the things we both like to do and do that together. And we still do that. But now I'm okay with just things I don't even really love to do. As long as he and I, or my daughter and I, are connecting, then I'm down to do whatever that is now. So that's something where I try to focus most of my time on that. And then if I do have to correct them, I want it to not be a surprise, like, hey, we're going to have a weekly meeting and talk about school to keep you on track. So that way, if he falls off track from school and as an issue arises, we actually say, hey, I want to have a meeting with you on this. Can we talk about it at this time? I think a lot of times as parents, we sort of ambush them because we're emotionally having a sensation or a feeling and we want to fix it. And I think the best way I've heard it put lately with Dr. Kelly at our last Fan Abundance event is he said, oftentimes we're trying to parent our kids to survive our childhood instead of thrive in their own experience of childhood. So we're like projecting on like, I got hurt, that happened, I didn't have this, I want them to have this. And we sort of like overcorrect because we're trying to solve something within us that happened in our childhood through them. And that becomes this whole, you know, disconnecting and confusing thing for kids to be like, why are they so determined to see this little thing done in this little way? I see parents sometimes get so fixated on stuff, and I know why. I do too. I've been there. So I'm not faulting them, but we have to dissect why is it that that's something that's triggering us, and be willing to admit like, oh, I'm only talking about this right now because I had an uncomfortable feeling inside of myself that I wanted to resolve. And I think that by fixing what's outside of me, which is your emotions or your feelings, that's going to somehow change how I'm feeling. So that's the tricky emotional judo that you have to do with teenagers.
Yeah, so good. So a couple just takeaways there is like one, spend more time connecting than correcting. And I think, basically what you're saying, you'll actually earn the right to even have them hear you in the correction if you've connected, more. The other thing I heard, and dude, this is a big old exclamation point for me, is like, don't ambush them. So just hey, can we connect on this, later today or tonight after dinner or tomorrow morning on the way to school, whatever it is that you could do, because I'm that way. I'm like, I need to get this out of me right now. And that's not the truth. The truth is I don't have to get this out of me right now. And I think I'm getting better at that. Like for example, we're actually, so school started yesterday for 3 of the girls, and there's a couple of standards we have for each one that we've already sat down and talked with 2 of our kids. We've got to sit down each one. But I was like, you know what? It's the first. We ran out of time, and so I'm like, hey, we can do it this weekend. It doesn't have to be today. Today's the first day of school. Let it be the first day of school. Don't drop this or that on them. Um, Okay, so I love that. And then asking yourself, like, why is this so triggering to me? Okay, I have a couple bullet points I want to make sure to get to. Um, if you were telling somebody outside of GoBundance, outside of FamBundance, how to create their family constitution. Now, number one, my friends, is go get the Miracle Morning, the playbook for families and parents. I think that would really help you. But any other suggestions you'd give in just a couple minutes of how to create a family constitution and start to build something with your family?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is to just get really clear on what your family values are, and that's there's a unique way of uncovering what your family values are that we teach in our Miracle Morning for Parents and Families playbook. But it essentially revolves around uncovering what are your family's key stories and who are you as a family, and then what are your values, your strengths, your particular quirky nature or the way that you are as a family that makes you uniquely who you are as a family. And it's important to really define that and to define that in a co-creation of the family instead of just the parents working on it. And I think if you have young kids, like just having them in the room when it's created can be beneficial, so they understand and they start to see that there's important conversations happening in a home, and that this is what we stand for. And I think the values really lead you into a lot of things because you're defining who you are and what's important to you as a family within that. And that also entails some fun things, like you can create a family motto, you can have a family crest or symbol that you create, you can have like a family handshake. But the Constitution is just documenting these things once you finalize them. And it's fun to actually, you can, with especially with AI, you can plug stuff into AI and have it turn it into cool graphics and create a family crest through it. And it makes pretty easy to like make the stuff cool. And you can even, sometimes use AI to help wordsmith if you kind of get it down to a general idea of what your written value statements are, your motto, as you plug it in, use a little AI and see how it can help that come to life. It's gotten easier in the last couple of years to do this kind of wordsmithing and value creation, facilitation work if you use that sort of human intelligence mixed with artificial intelligence working together. And we are coming up with like a FamBundance GPT where you could ask it questions and it would lead you through most of these frameworks, because not all of these are in the Miracle Morning. We have a whole set of frameworks that we're going to be releasing outside of FamBundance probably in 2026. But anyways, the values is really the centerpiece, but you could really just think of it as the identity of the family is the first piece. So you would even list out in that family constitution, here's some of our most epic historical family stories. They could be from generations past. They could be from your parents, your wife's parents, their grandparents. It could be from your childhood. It could be from your kids' childhood, and and ideally it'd be a mixture of all of those. And you would take, you'd pick 4, 5, 6 stories, and you'd capture those stories so that they're immortalized into this family legacy, which is now a document that's going to get hopefully passed. Maybe it's electronic. Maybe you have both a printed and an electronic version, but the idea would be that hopefully future generations, might adopt and edit and continue to build upon whatever that is too. But, identity is one piece. And then the next major piece is the vision of the family, which would be, what is the goal of this legacy of this family, and what do they hope their energy and their resources will collectively create in the world, and defining that, but then also setting goals for what do they do regularly as a family. Do they travel to Colorado once a year? Do they do a big give back trip once a year? And so it's actually deciding over the next year, what are those things that we're going to do? And those are the goals for the family. Like, we're going to give back this much. We're going to go on these 3 trips, and we're going to, stay healthy and eat vegan, half the time, or whatever the goal is that you're setting as a family. And then that defines what that family's all about and what they care about, what they're chasing. That also goes into the Constitution. And then the last thing would be the plan or the rhythms, the rituals that you do. So it would be, we eat dinner 3 times a week. We say hello, I love you, and goodbye as we're entering and leaving the home. You would have little rhythms that say, if we get in conflict, this is how we handle it. We pause, we take a breather, we don't attack or defend, we hold space, we're compassionate. You have to have like a set rules of engagement for a family. And so it's the rhythms of a family are what I really like to call this main idea, which is, how do they behave both daily, hourly, sometimes because it's on demand. Like, you never know when conflict's going to come up. Or how do you make a decision in your family? Like, does it go to a vote? Is there a dictator and they get to call all the shots? Like, is it does that, so how can you be as inclusive in your decision making as possible is my family's focus. But your family constitution's going to outline all the ways that you are wanting to be as a family. But just remember, the more your family feels like they were bought in and they helped design what it is that they're buying into and what the family constitution is, then the more real it is and the more bought in they are on it, and the more they'll actually get value out of it. So I think it's important that you co-create that family, culture and constitution together, and it would be all about your identity, all about your visions, and all about your rhythms and plans as a family to be the best that you can be as a family.
I love it. I love it. Beautiful. A couple that really stuck out to me is like, how do we make decisions? How do we handle conflict? I love the one, how do you greet people? It's funny because I just had this conversation with my son. So I got a son and 4 daughters, and there was a kind of a little minor situation at the house, and he came in, and there was a friend of one of the girls over, and like they kind of like each other, whatever. But it was like, he didn't say anything to her. at all. And so I went over to his room. I was like, yo, it doesn't really matter what's going on. Like what you're feeling, what she's feeling, we're the men of this house. And so if someone comes over, that person or anyone else, we welcome them. We say hi, even if there's like a little bit of beef or if there's a little bit of uncertainty, like you want them to feel comfortable in your home. And so it was like a really good moment to kind of share that. But how cool to then go and update the family constitution, right? To go throw that in there. So I think that having this place where we start to put things, I think sometimes my family is like, dude, less rules. And that's the thing, is it's not rules, it's like ways of life, right? Like I think that's why people don't like the 10 commandments, because they feel like a bunch of rules. But really it's like, you want to live in harmony, pretty good not to like sleep with your neighbor's wife. Like you want to have harmony with your neighbor, don't sleep with his wife, don't steal shit. So I think that those are the reminders, is this isn't about a rule, it's about harmony and how do we create harmony. So I want to go back to one question, and this is like the toughest question, and I think we all want to dodge it. If you come back in 100 years, right? You're gone. Okay, you're gone. You come back in 100 years and you go into your kid's house or your grandkid. Let's just say your great grandkid's house. You know, in my mind, I want to see a mom and a dad and 3 kids or whatever, right? And so it's like I don't know if that's just like there's this idealistic view of a family, right? Because obviously there's a single mom, there's a single dad. A dad passes away, a mom passes away. You know, like there's so many scenarios. So with this, what would be the 1, 2, or 3 things that you go, okay, let's not choose the ideal like a mom and a dad and 3 perfect little kiddos. What are the couple of components that are in a family, and we're less concerned about exactly what it looks like? You know what I'm saying? Like to me, it would be a little bit of a loss if my kid is like, I never want to get married, I never want to have kids. I kind of feel like it's like such a miss. And obviously I'm on the Fatherhood podcast and family's important, blah, blah, blah. So I don't want to fully put my ideals in somebody else. But if I believe this to the core, I'm like, oh, you're missing out in a major aspect of life if you don't do that. So for you, what are the 1, 2, or 3 things that you're like, these are components of a family that are really important?
I mean, love, joy, connection, play.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Support. I mean, that's what I would hope family would feel like. I don't think I would gonna be too hung up on what the components of that look like are, you know. Um, do I want grandchildren? Yeah, that'd be great. I have it's on my bucket list, but I also know that that's not necessarily under my control. So, but what I do hope is that they are in a home where there's love, no matter what the partnership is, if it's them and their cat or them and a huge family. I hope they feel loved and they know that they matter. I hope they feel fulfilled in their life. I hope they want to help others, and I hope that they know that that they're loved. That's the main thing that I think a family does, is create that safety.
But like if I show up and my kid is just like, Dad, come on over and meet your grandcats, and it's just like my kid and they have 12 cats and like that's their jam. Or if I come over and it's like, they've got a couple kids and clearly there's one that I want more than the other. I mean, it's right, clearly. So, but I think what I'm hearing from you is like, one, you can't really control it, which I think is important for us to know. And then the other is, to what level do I push my ideals onto my kid and then either force them into something they don't want or they rebel? Any other thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I think you have to ask yourself do you want to be happy with them, or do you want them to be happy with themselves? Do you want to be at peace with who they are, or would you rather them be at peace with who they are? Because what I want is for my kids to just feel like that they can be whoever they want to be and still be accepted and loved. And I want them to know that that's what they'll always have from me, is this sort of space of like, I just want you to do you. And I'm trying to remove all of the pressures of what I want out of them, because again, that's me trying to parent them to survive my childhood instead of thrive in theirs. So for you, family became something that really met like saved you in a way, maybe. Like, family became your jam, it's your brand, it's your thing. So it makes sense that that's something that's so important to you that you want your kids to also have that same thing that you got, but what they might need is something different than what you got. So you have to just hope they get what they need and they know how to advocate for their own needs and they're able to go get what they want in life. That's what I want, is even if it's something I don't want. I think I've done a great job if my kids go out and get what they want and they're happy with it, and set aside being criminals or something crazy like that.
Yeah, I think where I get hung up, I guess, is I'm not really able to disconnect my faith from like what is it that I want in life. And so I mean, I think that our purpose here is family. Like our purpose is to pass from one generation to the next. This idea of character and peace and harmony and love and all those things. Like so I think that is probably my hang up to like kind of the world's view currently is it's hard for me to disconnect those, which is like, really, it's like, let's come back in 50 years and see, did that deep connection to faith and purpose, and family and life, did it screw my kids, or did it set them up for success? And I think that's the interesting thing, is because you look at a lot of faith organizations, faith people, and they just burn the shit out of people. Like it's just nobody wants anything to do with it. So okay, I want to go to patriarch. So I hear you talk about patriarch. Are you the oldest in the family, of the only child? Okay, so only child, dad passes away. Was there like this physical change, not physical, but like this change for you mentally, physically, aware that like you're stepping into this next kind of piece? And then what does that look like? And what does that feel like? And I don't know, where are you at with that?
I mean, we had done a bunch of estate planning before my dad got sick. It was a blessing that we didn't have to deal with that or have those kind of conversations in his final months. So with that, clearly there's this unasked for um responsibility that all of a sudden is falling to me immediately. The settling of the estate, making sure everything got handled, making decisions on taxes to file or not file, and what and valuations of everything, and just like a ton of stuff. That being said, like I think that's I was already in control of all of the family assets. I'd already taken over and was the trustee and beneficiary of the family estate, and now I'm doing my iteration of that. But the main thing was just knowing, like, now my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, even that look to my dad for their leadership and guidance, now they're looking to me, and I'm actually, with a lot of honor and respect, willing to be that person. The difference is that I wanted to make sure that I do it the way that I think is true to who I am. And so there becomes a moment when you get to define, without my father's presence physically here on earth, who do I want to be, with sort of this blank slate of like, well, now it's up to you to decide, what needs to happen in this family for it to thrive, and maybe it's a slightly different style of leadership, or maybe it's the same, but it's going to be my own unique spin on it. And I think it's an honor that to do something like that for a family. But I think it goes hand in hand with that responsibility, is also not just being the one with the power in the family, but being the one with the most compassion, the most love, and also the one who's willing to heal themselves, be a healing force inside of the family, to be a force that brings everyone together. And so we're working on a lot of that stuff. Like, I'm starting to really bring together our family, extended family, my nephews, my cousins' kids. And that will be the future McCarthy family generation, whether they're direct McCarthy or share the name, they're all still family. And so we're building that together as an extended family.
Man, that's so beautiful. I think what an opportunity for us men to two things, right? Is like you said, lead and guide. So it's like you're there, you're leading, you're guiding, but then you are creating space for them to connect, right? To come together. And then you said the healing, right? Like you yourself are in a pursuit of healing because we all have mess in our lives, right? So as I grow and continue to become whole, not just for the sake of myself, but for the sake of those around me, I think is incredibly powerful. My friend, is there any other thoughts, stories, anything that comes to mind to discuss, share with all the dads listening before we sign off today?
I mean, the only thing I was going to go back to really quickly is, I do think it's possible for you to hold an incredibly strong vision for what you want, but to also allow your kids to chase their own dreams and know that you're not going to pressure them towards what it is that you want. So like that's your vision that you're holding, but you just have to be careful of like, if you cast that vision for them and they don't buy into it, you risk the severing of the connection with them. So I would say hold that vision strongly for yourself and even for them, but help them to decide what their vision is for themselves without necessarily it being exactly what you want for their lives. And I don't know, it's something that's tricky, but I with my kids, I notice that the things that I try to preach to them or try to pressure them in any way, not to say that you are in that sense, those tend to be the things that they resist the most. So I try to be pretty cautious with that, but I still have a vision that I want them to have children and carry the legacy. And I still talk to them about that occasionally, but I let them know like, but whatever you choose, it's your life. You've got to do what you got to.
Yeah, it is definitely delicate too. But I think ultimately, the thing that you said that I think is where we should, me in particular, focus the most on is I think sometimes we could be so concerned about what it is we want for them instead of healing ourselves and growing ourselves. Because the thing is like we've said it multiple times, they're going to end up doing what you do, like not doing what you said to do. So I think this emphasis of really leaning into your marriage, if you're married, really leaning into yourself and setting an example. I mean, I think I was journaling about this the other day. Like, if as my kids watch my marriage, do they even want that? Like does my kid look at my marriage and go, wow, that's awesome, right? Or are we bickering and fighting and so freaking annoying because whatever, we're living in a stressful moment? But then I'm like, kids, you got to get married. Marriage is really important. I'm really so focused on casting this vision, and I'm not focused on over here on Sarah. Like, dude, you know what I'm saying? So I think that is probably the place where you go, this is where I should spend my time, is making sure I'm not an asshole and like I'm living an abundant, fun, playful, loving, others focused life versus just trying to control everybody around me. And I think that's just the good reminder is like, go live well. And the thing is if you do that, other people are going to want to be a part of it.
You nailed it with the just not trying to control everything around you. That's like the line that you draw on that is like, if you're trying to control things that you can't control, then it's sort of a trivial pursuit. So we have to like get clear on that. But I think I mean, and I do that all the time. I'm major and minor things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing we've been talking about a lot over the past year is Galatians. In Galatians in the New Testament, it talks about fruits of the Spirit, and there's 7 or 8 of them, like love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, like all these really amazing things. And then the one that's really unique is and self-control, right? Like I would love to control everything around me, but I don't really want to control my words, my thoughts, my actions. Like, let me just shoot from the hip. But it's like the one thing I can control is myself. Like I get to choose what I think about. I get to choose what I say. I get to choose those things. So I think that is really a sign of, are you in tune with who you are, with your creator, with whatever you want to call that, is am I in self-control, right? And then am I producing fruit? Like if I'm producing great fruit, dude, I'm a kind of tree you're going to want to be around. Mike, I love my time with you. I love the conversation. I love your love for family and encouraging others and creating just such incredible moments, whether they're on an Instagram with a group of dads, you know what I mean? Like something, or if it's probably just a Tuesday morning and I'm sure you're just dancing or being silly in the kitchen with your kids, right? You're the kind of guy who's just creating moments at every opportunity and you've got that recipe down. And so thank you for sharing that with us. Dude, keep doing what you're doing, keep inspiring, keep leaning into encouraging families to discover their identity and their passion and heal and love and just all this the beautiful opportunities we have in life. So dude, hopefully we'll be, our paths will cross and we'll keep talking about family over the years and encouraging each other. Thank you so much for being here today. Thanks for talking family with me.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Thanks for the great conversation, and I hope it serves someone out there. And it's an honor if it just helps one person. Our dialogue and conversation. It's a rough job being a parent. So hopefully, people are able to raise children, as they say, through a village with a village.
Well, my last question, friend, where will people find you, learn more about Mike, learn more about GoBundance and FanBundance?
Yeah, you can go to GoBundance.com, FanBundance.com. My Instagram is Go Mike McCarthy. And then I have a website, GoMikeMcCarthy.com, with ways to get in touch. So thanks, man. Appreciate the opportunity. And I hope some people are able to get value out of it.
All right, my friend. What an incredible conversation. I mean, you can just tell that Mike has spent so much time wrestling with thinking through what it means to love, lead, serve. And be present with the family. So I encourage you to go check out episode 102, where we talk really about the family meeting, and then 202, where we talk more about his book, The Miracle Morning Workbook Playbook for Parents and Families. The thing that stuck out to me that I'll walk away with is creating a mental note, a mental check for myself around the whole ambush idea. Like, am I needing to go say this right now? Does this need to be said? If this doesn't need to be said right now, not to be passive, not to delay it to make it easier for myself, but to create a moment where it's more right. Sometimes it's like in the kitchen, it's like be right in the car. It's like no one was expecting this, but you were emotionally charged to say, hey, I don't like those eyelashes. I don't like how you're dressing. I don't like that you did this. You didn't mow the lawn correctly. Whatever, the list goes on of the things. We do need to teach, hold accountable, educate, teach responsibility, etc. But finding the way to communicate and doing it not from an emotional, I got to get this out, and learning to parent and lead well. Important. And I think as you think about that, you could even lean into that connection over correction. It didn't actually, that's great. It wasn't connection over correct. It was that, am I connecting more often than I am correcting? And so making sure that if I want to correct, is there a connection there for them to even want to hear me? All right, my friends, if these conversations are helpful, please send it to a friend, write a review, shoot me an email. You got a great podcast guest. Would love to have them on. Got a question about some of this stuff. I would love to connect with you, ned@rebellandcreate.com. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast. What you do matters. Don't be like everybody else. Be yourself. That's who your kids, spouse, and community needs. This is your guide, Ned Shout. Together, let's rebel against the view that fatherhood has little impact. And let's create lives engaged in mastering the craft of fatherhood. I look forward to hanging out with you next time.